So I was saying that we shall continue from where we were yesterday. We're talking about demand, the concept of demand. So I want us to continue from there. So we are starting from the determinants of demand, or what we call the shifters. Kidogo tu I'm looking for that. So okay, so I'm having issue with the power, but we shall continue. So hopefully the net won't be hectic. So I hope you can see my screen or the board. Hopefully you can see the board. So we continue. So shifters, the determinants of demand. So shifters, the determinant of demand. That is our topic today. Now, so in case you don't see the screen, you shall say, in case. This one is on date 27. So that has to be fast today. So when we talk about determinants or the shifters of demand, mostly we mean, so determinants of demand refers to the shifters of the demand curve. So economics. So when you talk about determinants of demand, we can say this, that it refers to the shifters of demand curve. It refers to the shifters of demand curve. So it refers to the shifters of demand curve. So the quantity demand of a commodity, however, is affected by its own price of a commodity. But you need to remember that the quantity demand of a commodity, however, is affected with its own price. For most commodities, when the price falls, more of it is purchased. So in most cases, when the price of a commodity falls, more of it is purchased, while when the price increases, or rises lesser quantity than before is purchased, or other demand influencing factor remaining constant. You can write that one down, though it's a repetition, but we can write. So for most commodity, for most commodities, when price falls, when price falls, more of it is purchased.
I lied. Let's go back. Let's go back.
More of it
All right, so we do.
is purchased. More of it is purchased. So someone should mute.
Right here.
So I hope the screen is clear and you can see. So I'm saying that for most commodities, when the price falls, more of it is purchased, while when price rises, lesser quantity, so lesser quantity than before is purchased. Than before is purchased. That is what we said in the previous class. That is according to the law of demand. So when the price rise, lesser quantity of those quantity is purchased. But remember, all other demand influencing factor remain unchanged. But remember, all the other demand influencing factor remain a constant. Okay. Okay. Now we shall see some of those determinants which affects demand. Let us see factors that collectively determine the position of demand curve So factors that collectively determine the position of demand curve in price quantity demand space. Tuanze na ya kwanza. Number A, you can start with consumer income. Consumer income as our first one. Now, under consumer income, so a change in consumer income may bring about the change in demand for goods and service. That one is correct. So when the income of a person changes, then the demand for goods and service might also change. However, the direction of change in demand will depend on the type of the commodity. So the type of change will depend on the type of commodity. Now we have three type of commodity. We have normal goods, we have the inferior goods, and we have necessity goods. Now, for example, for normal goods, demand might increase when the consumer income increases. Okay, let us write down so that ikuwe rahisi. Tunasema a change in consumer income. So a change in consumer income may bring about a change. So may bring about a change in demand for goods and service. In demand for goods and services. So when the income of a person changes, the demand for the goods and service might also change. But now we are saying that change will depend with the type of good. That change will depend with the type of good. So you can say, however, the direction of change in demand so hapo inaonekana. So tunasema however, the direction of change in demand will depend on the type of commodity in equation. Will depend on the type of commodity in equation. Commodity in equation, i.e., we can start with the first one, normal goods. So part A, we are still under consumer income. Now you can say for normal good, demand might increase. Demand might increase when income increases. So for normal good, demand might increase when consumer income increases. So when consumer, we put the word consumer. When consumer income increases. So when the income of a person increases, then that kind of good, the demand also does what? Increases. And also you can say, you can continue and say, and demand might fall when consumer income decreases when the consumer income decreases, holding the other factors constant. So we can write cateris paribus. So remember we define in our topic 1 what is cateris paribus. So holding the other factors constant. We're going to go to Nandika, for example, that for a normal good, demand might increase when the consumer income increases, or demand might fall when the consumer income decreases, holding other factors constant. So rather than saying holding the other factors constant, you can just write cateris paribus. Okay, number B or number 2, still the consumer. Let's talk about inferior goods. Let's talk about inferior goods. Now, for an inferior good, so I shall define what is an inferior good. Let me write this one. Demand might decrease. Demand might decrease so demand might decrease when consumer income increases. When consumer income increases. Now, clearly, you can see that when the demand decreases, sometimes the consumer demand might increase when the consumer income increases. Now, when you have more income, so when your income increases, then you tend to not consume some item. So those items that you tend not to consume when you get more money, so we call them the inferior goods. Now, we can also say why the demand might fall. Copy. While the demand might fall also as consumer increases. As consumer income. Okay, this statement is not relevant. Let us do away with it. Let us just do it up to that point. Let us define what is inferior good. Now, for inferior good, you can say, are those goods that will consume more? So, are those goods that we consume more? So, those goods that we consume more when we are in a worse financial distress. When we are in worse financial distress. So, or when we don't have enough money. So, in that case, we call them inferior good. So, goods that we consume more when we are in a worse financially and less when we are better off. When we are better off financially. So kuna hizo goods zenye unajipata wakati hauna pesa, you tend to consume more of it. Wakati sorry, nasema these are those goods where unajipata unaziconsume sana wakati hauna pesa, but wakati you are financially stable, then you tend to consume less of them. So unajipata uzitumii sana. That is what we call the inferior good. So wakati hauna pesa unazitumia sana, you consume those goods sana. Wakati uko sawa kifedha, then you tend to use them less. Now, a good example is a second-hand item. Now, who will want to buy second-hand item when they are rich? That question is you to answer. So who would prefer to buy second-hand item when they are rich? No one. But if you don't have enough money, then you shall prefer to buy more of the second-hand goods. But when you get money, then you might find your way not to buying the second-hand item. So you tend to buy new ones. So you ignore them. That's a good example of an inferior good. So the demand decrease when the income increases. So the demand decrease when the income increases. So ukiwa na pesa mingi unajipata unanunua vitu mpya. Lakini when your income inadidimia, you get to buy second-hand item. I think that one is a bit explanatory. Number 3, our last type of goods. We can say necessity. For necessity, sijui kanaandikwa hivyo. Niko na 1C, that one is fine. F-double-S. Aina hii. So for the necessity good, a change in consumer income may not affect the demand. So kama chumvi, whether upate pesa mingi ama kidogo, chumvi ni ile, utakuwa unanunua ile chumvi umekuwa ukinunua. So for necessity good, a change in consumer income, does not affect demand. Does not affect demand. So kuna hizo item wenye unanunua. So whether you have enough money or not, utakuwa unanunua the same kind of item. Especially inaonekana kwa a lot of people. So kama umezoea kununua ile chumvi kakubwa hivi kidogo fulani, kuna kachumvi fulani hapo. Kama umezoea kununua yao kachumvi kana kupeleka hata miezi kadhaa, hata ukipata pesa, you shall still buy that kachumvi. So the demand of that kachumvi will still remain the same. So you tend up to consuming the same amount of commodity. Ikisha kwa nyumba, you go to the same two type of commodity, the same quantity, and so on. Another one is majani, kama majani. Those are the necessity that we keep on using day to day. So they are necessary for survival of life. So that kind of goods, we can say that their demand will remain the same, whether we have more money or not. So that's all about the consumer income. So in an exam, you state determinants of demand. You can start with consumer income, and you say when a consumer income changes, then the demand might change. Then you start with the normal good, and you say for a normal good, the demand increase when the income increases. And then end up for inferior good, and you say for these goods, we tend to consume more of it when we don't have enough money, or we tend to consume more of it when we have more money. Sorry, we tend to consume less of it when we have more money, but we tend to consume more of it when we don't have money. So that's all about consumer income as part A. We go to part B, price of related goods. Price of related goods. So here we shall talk about complementary goods and substitute goods. So part B, so number B, after consumer income. So price of related goods. So in case out on a screen, we shall just say so that isikuwe niko inchi kivyangu. Okay, price of related goods. Now let us say something. Now you can say this. Goods relate to each other in two ways. So goods relate to each other in two ways. They can be either complements or substitutes. So goods relates to each other in two ways. So we have A, complements, and number B, we have substitutes. Substitutes goods. So complement and substitutes. So we start with the complement goods. So complement goods, they also called joint goods. So another name of complement goods, those are called joint goods. So now I'm tilting the screen again on the other side. That way. But I hope mnaona ndio isikue. So let me do away with this side. Tuko tushaandika. Okay, now we start with complement goods. Sawa. So complementary goods na tumesema pia zinaitwa pia zinaitwa joint goods. So complementary goods or the joint goods. So we write it here, but we start with the first one, A, complementary goods. Then we say they are also called joint goods. They also called joint goods. And we can say this statement. Now we can say this one. They are needed jointly before a want could be satisfied. So they are consumed jointly before a want is satisfied. So this is the definition. These are goods which are needed jointly. So these are goods which are needed jointly before a want could be satisfied. Before a want could be satisfied. Before a want could be satisfied. E.g., camera and film. So a camera and a film, they're a good example. With the complementary goods, a steep rise in one price sorry, when we talk about complementary goods, a steep rise in the price of one will lead not only to the fall in its consumption, but also decrease in the fall of the other good. A fall in price of one good would lead to an increase in demand of the other. Okay, let us write it here. That one is very important. So we can say a steep rise in the price in one. So a steep rise in price of one will not only lead to a fall, will not only lead to a fall in its consumption, but also a decrease, in demand of the other good. Hiyo iko sawa. So we can add a fall in price of one good would lead to increase the demand of the other. Now we can another good example ni gari na mafuta. So gari haiwezi enda bila mafuta. So ndio gari iende, then we need hiyo mafuta. We call them petroleum product. So those are complementary goods. Now when the price of a petrol increases, people might decide not to buy cars. So when the price of the mafutas of petroleum product increases, people might decide not to buy cars because they are wanaogopa that they shall incur a lot of cost to maintain that vehicle. Also, you can also say that when the price of the petroleum product increases, if there's people who are renting cars, they might not rent the car. So when one increases, the other one reduces. But when the price of petroleum decreases, now people might decide to buy cars or may decide to rent if they are doing a business of renting cars for business purpose. So in that case, so when one of the goods demand price fall, the other item that is jointly related to that product increases. So let's talk about complementary goods. You can also add a car and petrol, if the car is using petroleum. Another, after this one, let us go to part B. Substitute. So niko na shida is I have an issue with my steamer. Anyway, najua sasa mnaona madimdim. Anyway, so naongea for now. So substitute. to substitute goods. So these are goods that only one is needed to satisfy a want or a need. So are goods that power. I hope my net itarudi chini, because when we have a power issue net huwa inadidimia, but hopefully itakuwa sawa. So these are goods. So for now I'm talking. So these are goods that only one is needed to satisfy a want or a need, or both. So are goods that only one is needed to satisfy a want or a need, not a need. Okay, this I need, or both. So you can easily substitute one for another one. So are goods that only one can be used to satisfy the same need, or want. You can use up at the same need. It can be used to satisfy the same need stroke want, or both. So a good example, tea and coffee. So tea and coffee are there to satisfy the same thing. So they are there to satisfy the same thing. So when you drink coffee, you shall get the same. You might get the same consumption or the same satisfaction if you are to consume tea. So tea and coffee offer same need or want. So those coffee and tea are a good example of a substitute good. Now let us input this one down, and we say this one is very important because I'll be an example. This one is where we can get a question. So I hope when you sema inasumbua, I hope everything is clear, mnaweza kusoma. Hopefully. So leo tuko na challenges. So for substitute good, we can say a fall in the price of one, a fall in the price of one. So a fall in the price of one leads to a decrease. Leads to a decrease in demand. So leads to a decrease in demand for the other. So tunasema a fall in price of one. So a fall sorry. So a fall in price of one leads to a decrease in demand of the other. And we can also add this one. We can add what? We can add this one. While an increase in the price, while an increase in price, while an increase in the price of one lead of one lead to an increase in demand of the other. Sijui kama hapo inaonekana ama nimeenda chini sana. Inaonekana. So hivi ndio tunasema for a substitute good, a fall in the price of one lead to a decrease in demand of the other. Tunamaanishaje? Let us tuende na hiyo coffee and tea. So for example, we are consuming coffee and tea, and we can get the same satisfaction from either of the two. So, but we can either consume coffee or tea. Now, kenye namaanisha, when the price of coffee increases, watu wataacha kutumia hiyo coffee kwa sababu price may increase. Therefore, they shall go for tea. So the demand of the tea will do what? So when the price of coffee increases, the demand for that coffee it reduce, then watu wanaenda kwa tea, wa purchase more of tea. Ama when the price of coffee reduces, watu watasema we are going to consume more of coffee, then the demand of the other one will reduce. So when one of the two product prices reduces, they shall consume that product more. But your price, your commodity price ikienda juu, then they shall go for the substitute, that is tea, more. So they shall consume more of tea. Andike iko sawa. So those are, so a good example of a substitute good is coffee and tea. We can say i.e. So i.e. coffee and tea. So you get same satisfaction. So you get same satisfaction. So you get same satisfaction. So when coffee price reduces, then the demand for tea will decrease. But when the price of coffee increases, then demand for tea it will increase. Kwa sababu watu watatoroka kwa coffee. Okay, that is all about complementary good and the price of related goods. So tumemaliza part B, price of related goods as part B. Now we can go to part C. Now part C is consumer taste and preference. Consumer taste and preference as another determinant of demand. As another determinant. As another determinant. So consumer, so this one is number C. So tunaanza na A, which is consumer income. Tukaenda B, price of related goods. Then tuko C, consumer taste. Consumer taste and preference. So consumer taste and preference, you can say a change in consumer taste or preference will cause the demand to change. So increase in the taste or preference of a particular goods cause the demand to increase. So kama ni wewe ukikuwa na taste of a particular product, uko inakupendeza sana, you feel like that is your taste, then you shall end up consuming that more of that good. But when your taste decreases or your preference for that good decreases, then you shall do what? You shall stop consuming that product. So we can write and say, increase in taste. In taste and preference. So increase in taste and preference for a particular good. Hapo inaonekana for a particular good. For a particular good, cause the demand to increase. Causes the demand of that good to increase. sawa. We can also add this one. While decrease or while declining a test, while declining a test or preference. So while declining test and the preference causes demand fall. Causes demand to fall. Then categories paribus. So holding other factors constant. So categories paribus, holding other factors constant. So that one is all about consumer preference. I think that one is explanatory. That when the demand of a particular, sorry, not the demand, when the taste and the preference of a particular commodity tend to be more, then the demand shall increase. But where we have a decline in the taste and preference, then we can say that the demand will fall. That's all about consumer. We can go to consumer expectation. Number D. Consumer expectation. Consumer expectation. Consumer expectation. Now we can say this one. This is what we can say, that the decision to buy a commodity today is influenced by the expected future price of the commodity and the expected changes in the consumer income. So the decision to buy a commodity today is influenced by the future prices of that, the future prices of a commodity and the expected changes in income of a person, or changes in consumer income. Therefore, if a consumer anticipates that the price of a commodity to increase in future, today demand for that commodity will increase. But if the consumer anticipates a fall in future price, then the demand for that commodity will do what? Will fall. Will fall. Oh, this is what we can say. So I hope you may understand that tumekojanga hii nini yetu inanisumbua leo. So I'm saying that for consumer expectation, the price is determined. The price is determined either by the future price or the consumer income, or by the consumer income, or by the consumer income. Now we can say that if a consumer anticipates that the price of a commodity to increase in future, then the demand for that commodity will increase. So we can write that one for the purpose of illustration. Let us write it for the purpose of illustration. You can say now if a consumer anticipates the price of a commodity to increase in the future, the price of a commodity, sorry, okay, so tunasema if a consumer anticipates anticipates that what? So if a consumer anticipates that the price of a commodity to increase in future, then you can conclude and say, then what will happen to the demand? So kama the price of commodity will increase in future, what will happen to the demand? Because the price will be more in future, people will tend to buy that commodity today because the price will increase in future, and therefore we can go ahead and say the demand of the commodity will increase today. The demand of the commodity will increase today. That's why I said, but I started by saying that the future price, or the expected price. So the demand, not by future. I mean the demand of a product, or the decision to buy a product, that is the demand, is influenced by two things. Number one, the future price, or the consumer income. Now, for future price, tumeona hapa, if consumer expects that the price of commodity will increase in future. Now, if it is what is expected, that the price of the commodity will increase in future, then in future, that commodity will be expensive, and therefore people will tend to buy more of that commodity today before the price increases, and vice versa. And vice versa, meaning if the price of commodity tends to decrease, or people anticipate that the price will decrease in the future, now today people will not buy that commodity more because they will wait until that price decreases in future so that they can buy more, and therefore the demand will reduce today. So if they anticipate that the price will reduce in the future, today, in future, it means then the demand for that commodity will decrease today. What about the income? Now, if similarly, unexpected consumer income increases, may cause current demand for normal commodities to increase and vice versa. So hii ni kama tumesema pale juu, if the consumer income increases today, the demand for that commodity, let us use the word normal good, shall increase, and vice versa. And vice versa. I think that one is correct for normal good. I think that one is fine that way. So that's all about the consumer expectation as part D. We can go to part E. We talk about population of consumer. Population of consumers. Now, what do you think about population of an income? Now, population and the population changes might affect the demand for commodity. So population and population changes might affect the demand for commodities. Areas of high population may demand more of certain goods than areas of low population. So we can explain that one that way. So that areas of high population might demand more of certain commodities. So you can say areas of high demand, so areas of high population might demand more of certain commodities. So areas nimeenda sana nje. Mbona msemi? So we're talking about population of consumer, and we are saying areas of high population might demand more of certain commodities, might demand more of certain commodities. Now, we can also say as the population increases, the demand also increases. So as population increases, demand also increases. So as population increases, so the demand also increases. We have other factors. I shall send the notes. Let me just state them so that we will. Let me just state them for now so that we'll be fast. Then I shall share the notes also for you to review on your own so that you can write. And make sure you write, and repeat. So another factor, F, we have marketing strategy. Marketing strategies. We have natural factor. We have natural factors. Number H, availability of credit. Availability of credits. Then ya mwisho, cost of borrowing or interest rate. Cost of borrowing, bracket interest. So we can just discuss them and then tutaandika baadaye. So for example, for marketing strategies. Now, marketing strategies such as advertisement, publicity, and sales promotion are means used to get consumer to increase the purchase of a commodity. They are intended to inform and persuade existing customers as well as new ones to buy more of commodity. Now, effective marketing strategies will lead to an increase in the commodity or other thing being equal. Let us cite it here. For this one is for marketing strategies. Naandika hapa. For marketing strategies, how you explain it. You can say that effective marketing strategy, effective marketing strategies. So effective marketing strategies will tend to increase the demand for commodity. So we lead to an increase in demand of a commodity. Will lead to an increase in demand of a commodity. Categories, paribas. So that is all about effective marketing. Now remember, when we talk about effective marketing, we are talking about publicity, sales promotion, advertisement, and so on. Now, when those kind of marketing is effective, the demand of that product will increase. So that is all about marketing strategies. Let's go to a natural factor. Natural factors, and you can say, so when we talk about natural factors, we can talk about seasonal variations. Now, seasonal variation may affect demand of a commodity at certain times of the year. For example, during the raining season, demand for jackets increases during the raining season. But when the rain stops, the demand for jackets reduces. So also during the raining season, demand for raincoats, apart from the jackets, demand for raincoats and umbrellas also increases. They also increase. Why during the dry season, the demand of such commodities tend to decrease. So now we can write this one. So this one is for natural factor. So this one is for natural factor. So huyu ndio wake ndio huyo hapo. Sijui kama inaonekana. Mungu niambie ni change hivyo. So hiyo ya kwanza so tunasema during the rainy season people demand for nini? Demand for so during the rainy season. Okay, let us say it. Let me just state it. So I was saying seasonal variation may affect the demand for commodity. Seasonal variation might affect the demand of a commodity, i.e., during rainy season, demand for jackets, raincoat, and umbrellas will increase. Why? Will increase. Why during the dry season? During the dry season, the demand decreases. The demand decreases. Yes, iko sawa. So tunasema seasonal variation might affect the demand for commodity, i.e., during the rainy season, demand for a jacket, a raincoat, and umbrellas will increase, while during the dry season, the demand decreases. That one is a natural factor. We have another one, availability of credits. Now, when a consumer is given credit facility in form of a credit purchase, higher purchases, and the use of credit cards and check, they are going to buy more goods. So the way you can say, so the more the availability of credits, the more the demand of a good. So when the more the availability, this one, we say, so the more the availability of credit facility for purchases, the more the demand might increase. That one is all. That's all about availability of credit. And tumesema when a consumer is given more credit facilities in the form of credit purchases, higher purchases, and the use of credit cards and checks, that one is for purchases. So they are encouraged to buy more goods. And then when they buy more goods, then regarding of those facilities will increase the demand for goods covered by those facilities. But remember that there is paribas. But remember that there is paribas. So holding holding other thing constant, holding all the other thing which affects demand constant. That one is all about. It is all about availability of credit. Anyway, the last one is about cost of borrowing. Now, if the cost of borrowing is low, so what happens when the cost of borrowing is low? So the cost of borrowing, the interest rate, what happens when the interest rate is low? Now, if the cost of borrowing is low, then people can borrow and consume more of goods and service. If the cost of borrowing is high, people can borrow less, reduce, and then investment reduces. Now, we can write it here, just to explain it a bit. This one, cost of borrowing, ndio huyu hapa. So when the interest, when the cost of borrowing is low, so when the cost of borrowing is low, then people can borrow more and consume more. Then people can borrow more and so then people can borrow more and do what? And consume more of normal goods and service. Of normal goods and services. That is all about it. So the demand of normal goods will increase if the cost of borrowing reduces. If the cost of borrowing reduces. Now, we talk about the last thing. So that is all about the determinants. That is all about the determinants of demand. So we can talk about type of demand. Type of demand. So what are those? What are some of the type of demand? The type of demand. So that one is the last thing we are talking today, so that tomorrow we start from changes in demand. And that's what we want, and then go to back to supply. I think we should take another 2 classes so that we can finish this topic. Anyway, that one is fine to tumejaribu. Type of demand. So we have joint or complementary demand. Kidogo tu, I'm coming back. So type of demand, we have joint or complementary demand. We have competitive demand, we have derived demand, and then we have composite demand. So I think we can start from there tomorrow. If we can be meeting this, the joint stroke complementary demand. Number B, we have competitive demand. Number C, derived. Demand. After derived demand, we have composites. Composite demand. So we shall start from there tomorrow. The class was supposed to end at 7. So we shall start from there tomorrow. Or the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow we shall have quantitative analysis. So tomorrow we shall have QA. So I think to be the day after tomorrow. Okay. That one is the end of our class today. So we meet tomorrow. Unless you have a question. So Diana, do you have a question?
No.
The rest, leo umeongea. Anyway, sawa sawa. So we meet tomorrow. That one is the end of the class. Have a lovely night.